Monarchy. Monarchy is one of the oldest forms of government, where power is held by a king, queen, or emperor. Leadership is usually hereditary, passed down through family lines. Historically, monarchs had absolute power, controlling laws, armies, and religion. Today, most monarchies are constitutional monarchies, where the monarch's powers are limited by a constitution, and an elected government actually runs the country. The monarch becomes a symbol of unity and tradition rather than real political authority. For example, the United Kingdom, Japan, and Sweden are constitutional monarchies. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy, where the king holds real governing power. Democracy. Democracy is a system where power ultimately belongs to the people. Citizens participate in decision-making either directly or by electing representatives. The core idea is simple. People choose their leaders, and leaders are accountable to the people. Elections are regular, opposition parties are allowed, and basic freedoms like speech, press, and assembly are protected. There are different ways democracy works. In some countries, people vote directly on laws, but in most modern states, citizens elect representatives who make decisions on their behalf. Democracy encourages transparency, debate, and peaceful transfer of power. For example, the United States and Germany are democratic countries. Republic. A republic is a system where the country is considered a public matter, not the private property of a ruler. Power is exercised by elected representatives, and the head of state is usually an elected president, not a king or queen. A written constitution is central in a republic, defining limits on government power and protecting citizens' rights. Most modern republics are also democracies, but not all democracies are republics. The key difference is that a republic rejects hereditary rule. Laws apply equally to leaders and citizens, at least in theory. For example, France, Pakistan, and Turkey are republics. Socialism. Socialism is an economic and political system that focuses on equality and social welfare. The main idea is that major industries, resources, and services should be owned or regulated by the state to reduce inequality. Supporters argue this prevents exploitation and ensures basic needs like health care, education, and housing. Socialism does not always mean no democracy. Some countries adopt democratic socialism, combining elections with strong social programs. Others use socialism under strict state control. For example, Sweden and Norway practice democratic socialism with free markets and welfare states. The former Soviet Union used socialism with heavy state control and limited freedoms. Communism. Communism is a political and economic system that aims to eliminate private property and social classes. In theory, all resources are owned collectively, and everyone works according to their ability and receives according to their needs. The goal is complete equality and the removal of exploitation. However, in practice, communist systems are usually run by a single political party that controls the state, economy, media, and military. Instead of a stateless society, strong centralized governments emerge. Individual freedoms are often limited to maintain control and unity. Supporters argue communism creates equality, while critics say it concentrates power in the hands of the state. For example, China, Cuba, and Vietnam are communist states. Federal system. A federal system is a form of government where power is divided between a central authority and regional governments, such as states or provinces. Each level has its own responsibilities defined by a constitution. This system works well in large or diverse countries because it allows local governments to manage local issues, while the central government handles national matters like defense and foreign policy. Federalism prevents excessive concentration of power and encourages regional autonomy. However, disagreements between central and state governments can create political tension. When balanced well, Federal systems provide both unity and flexibility. For example, the United States and Australia are prime examples of federal systems. Autocracy. Autocracy is a system where one individual holds most or all political power. This leader is not accountable to the public through free elections. Decisions are made quickly because authority is centralized, but citizens have little influence over governance. Opposition parties, independent media, and criticism are often restricted or banned. Autocratic rulers may justify their control by claiming they provide stability or national strength. While some autocracies maintain order, many suffer from corruption, human rights abuses, and lack of transparency. Power often remains as long as the ruler controls the military or security forces. For example, Russia and Belarus follow autocratic systems. Oligarchy. Oligarchy means rule by a small, powerful group rather than the general population. This group may consist of wealthy individuals, military leaders, political elites, or influential families. Even if elections exist, real power often remains in the hands of this elite group. Ordinary citizens have limited influence over major decisions. Oligarchies often arise when wealth and power become concentrated over time. Policies tend to benefit the ruling minority rather than the public. Oligarchy can exist openly or hidden behind democratic institutions. For example, ancient Sparta and modern elite-dominated states are examples of oligarchy. Totalitarianism. Totalitarianism is an extreme form of government where the state seeks total control over society. The government controls politics, economy, education, media, and even personal beliefs. Citizens are expected to show complete loyalty to the state or leader. Surveillance, propaganda, and fear are commonly used to maintain control. Individual freedom is almost non-existent, and dissent is punished harshly. Totalitarian regimes often emerge during crises and promise order and national greatness, but at the cost of human rights and personal liberty. For example, North Korea and Nazi Germany are examples of totalitarianism. Anarchism. Anarchism is a political philosophy that rejects all forms of centralized government and authority. Anarchists believe society can function through voluntary cooperation, mutual aid, and self-governed communities. They argue that governments create oppression, inequality, and violence. In reality, anarchism rarely exists on a national level because maintaining security, law, and services without authority is extremely difficult. Most anarchist systems have appeared briefly during revolutions or civil conflicts. While the idea promotes freedom, critics argue it leads to chaos and instability. For example, communities during the Spanish Civil War are examples of anarchism. Thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe for such kind of informative videos.